Alright, so today we're looking at the Hasbro Marvel Legends Blob single release deluxe figure. This is just a big figure release. It's definitely, could have been a build-a-figure within an X-Men wave, but they decided to release him on its own, so that may be a good thing for some of you guys that don't want to buy 6 figures to build a blob. As we all know, the last time we got a blob was the Build-A-Figure from Hasbro themselves from many years ago, which is now obviously out of print and, up there in price, but it could be a little outdated compared to this new release. Some may disagree and some may agree, so we'll check that out in this video. You can see the windowless packaging here in the front side. It's actually a pretty big thick box. If I turn it to the side, you could see or you cannot see that image there. On the other side is the image of the figure, and then on the back side we have the image of the figure once again with what he comes with, which doesn't look like much, to be honest. It's showing that he stands about 8.34 inches tall right there on the back. Alright, so let's get this out the way right away. I do not own the Build-A-Figure release of Blob, so this for me is pretty exciting because it's my first Blob in the collection. I finally have Blob. I've been missing this character for the longest. Honestly, I've never owned a Blob figure. I almost got around to buying that Build-A-Figure, but I just didn't want to spend the money that it was going for, so I waited it out, hoping that eventually they'll remake him, which they did. Here he is. And, looking at pictures of that Blob, it does look pretty cool. He looks very nasty and, crazy. From what I've seen, the height compared to this figure is about the same height, so you're getting roughly around the same size Blob, and here it just looks more aesthetically pleasing. He still looks fat and chubby and blobby and he still looks great, and I think overall figure wise it's a better figure than that release, but obviously I can't really say that because I don't have it in hand. It's always better to have a figure in hand before really judging it. So I'll leave it at that. Aesthetically, this looks better. Just looking at him, the way it looks, I would rather have this figure. If I had 2 pictures of each figure and had to choose one, I would go with this one right here. So he does stand at exactly 8.23, whatever that number was on the back of the box. It's a little over 8 inches tall. Since he's kind of wide, I guess we can measure the width of him. He's about 5 inches wide from hand to hand. So he comes with 3 accessories. That is an extra head sculpt right here, which is a yelling head sculpt, which looks really good. I dig it. And then we have alternate hands. So as you see on the figure right now, he got a right fist and an open left hand. So of course we're going to have a left fist and a open right hand, but slightly different. It's almost like a little grabby hand. You can grab something. So it's not super wide open like the one you see right there. That is everything he comes with. Now I will say this figure is quite pricey. I think he's about $57.99. I don't know, I can't remember. It's around $60, 50 to 60 bucks. Now that's of course better than what you'll be paying for the Build-A-Figure on eBay. So that is up to you to make that choice. So it is cheaper to go with the new one, of course, but again, a $60 figure is still not super cheap now. I think if this was released like 5 years ago with the prices back then, it would have probably been a 40-ish to $45 figure, I would say, as a deluxe. I think when Monster Venom came out, it was about 40, so that seems about right. So given all the price hikes lately, I can see why it's going up to 60. So it's a little steep on that end, but that seems to be the topic of conversation when it comes to every single Marvel Legends release nowadays. So it is what it is. You're gonna hear it every time. So taking a closer look at the figure, you can see that they added on some paint details on his skin, and it's all over the body. He's got like some freckles pretty much all over the body, all the arms, on the hands right there, the thighs down to his shins, everywhere, even on the backside there. It's just sprinkled all over, and I think that adds a nice detail. It really looks nice because it makes it look like it's actual skin rather than just a plastic toy. So it adds to the realism of a figure. It looks more realistic for a 6-inch scale figure. I think they should do this more often. Now, granted, not every single character has uh, freckles all over the body like this, but something to not make it look so plasticky, even though it is a plastic toy. That makes sense. But I love it. I like the skin tone, the skin details to make it look a little bit more realistic. The head sculpt is fantastic. This is the neutral head sculpt, of course. The hair sculpt is nice too. Got some nice paint details there. orange and brownish. You can see on the back side. So the blue is just a plastic mold. It might be painted. I can kind of see some detail in there. Pretty good. I dig it. Of course, the main difference here between this one and the older release is there's no like cellulite or whatever, bunch of blobbiness, wrinkles all over the skin. You can kind of see a little bit right here on the knees. I think I like this better, honestly. Just it's so much nicer. He's still super obese and fat, and I mean, look at the side view of that gut right there. And he does have the man boobs right there on the torso, of course. You can see the painted yellow parts on the shoulder, and then the belt is just a plastic belt molded on there. We've got some wristbands along with his little boots there. So this is your up close look. Let's take a look at him with the alternate head sculpt. It's a head slash double chin neck combo. So that's how that is. And then we just snap in. As fat as it is, he could still look up pretty darn well. Looking down, it's not going to happen. He's just going to look straight forward because of just how fat he is. Left and right does get hindered, but he does look left and right somewhat. And the head tilting is very nice as well. So they, as you saw, it's on a ball jointed peg. Just a straight up peg right there. Doesn't hinge or anything. Now you can't see it with the closed mouth one since it's not so, you know, wide with the mouth open, that you can move it left and right a little further than that open mouth head sculpt. Up just the same, and then down a little bit more. You can see he can kind of look down a little bit, so definitely more in, and the head kind of popped up a little, so maybe you gotta half it to get him to look down, and that'll work out for like a photo. So as for the arms, as you can see, clearly there is no bicep swivel and there's single jointed elbows. I didn't expect double joints because obviously it's a fat character, it's a big thick boy, and you know, I think a bicep swivel would have a annoying cut, but then again, they have a cut right here on the thigh, which is pretty good. You can still see the line, obviously, but um, it's it's pretty okay. Like I'm not bothered by that, so I don't know how I would feel if that was the case with the bicep. Arms are gonna go all the way up. You can see they kind of angle out a little bit. It's just how it is. Goes down, in and out. Pretty good, if you ask me. So no bicep swivel, no shoulder socket, no butterfly joint or anything like that. So when you put both arms forward, that's how it's going to be. There's a single jointed elbow that bends a little bit further than a 90-degree bend right there. He's leaning forward a little bit. There you go. And the elbow will swivel too. There's a wrist swivel with a hinge, very tight hinge, but there it is for the wrist. And then there is a diaphragm joint right below the man boobs. So you can crunch him forward. You can crunch him back a little bit, swivel it, and tilt him like that. Twist him, bop him, whatever. As for the waist, no waist swivel. You would think there would be a cut here, but that would be awkward, right? I don't think that would work. So that's probably why they didn't really add that there. So no waist swivel. Legs are gonna be T-jointed. They do kick forward about this far, which is decent for such a large dude. And they go back down. As for the splits, he can kind of do the splits a little bit. Check that out. Thighs are going to swivel, of course. Single jointed knees. They don't reach 90 degrees. You can see right there, it's a little bit, you know, wide. So, and then I thought there was going to be a boot cut, but there is no boot cut right here on the shin. So I don't know. I think they should have added that boot cut there. Now there is an ankle hinge at the foot with an ankle rocker, of course, as we all expect. Alright, so I do want to compare him next to some other bigger size figures to get an idea of his height next to some other, preferably X-Men characters. So here we have Apocalypse here. He does stand a little shorter than BLOB, as you see. And, you know, if you have an Apocalypse, you can get an idea of how big this BLOB is. Here he is next to the Beast. This is the most recent Beast with the lab coat on there. And obviously he will stand shorter. So there's an idea of them next to each other. Alright, so this is a little difficult to compare since these two are so big. And Mojo is actually a little bit further up, maybe by an inch, than the BLOB. So if I scoot BLOB forward, he might cut out of frame at the top. But you can kind of see size-wise. If I pan out a little bit, there you go. Get an idea of the size of BLOB. Next to Mojo, Mojo's pretty big. You know, it's bigger than the Toy Biz release of Mojo, so Not bad. I'm really digging the size of this Blob figure. And here's a look at Blob next to the HasLab Galactus. Now, next to some regular sized Homo sapiens, we'll start off with Magneto. I guess I should have said regular sized mutants, but here's Mystique, and you can just see how Blob towers over her. And here's Tiger Stripe Wolverine, the cel shaded one to be exact from the VHS release. Alright, back to big figures, I guess. Here is the Kingpin Build-A-Figure with the Shadow King head sculpt on, of course. And if you have Kingpin or Shadow King, then you can kind of get an idea of how big Blob is. Blob is still wider, Blob is still taller, slightly bigger. Now Blob is big, but he's not Juggernaut big. And just to get an idea of exactly where we're at nowadays in terms of prices, this Juggernaut was re-released in a 2-pack, came with Colossus, and it retailed for $60, while this Blob retails for $5 less at $55. So a couple years ago, you could get 2 figures for the price of what this Blob cost, but keep in mind that that 2-pack was a couple of repainted figures re-released, while this Blob is a brand new sculpt. So there's that to factor in, but still kind of jarring to see those prices be so similar, with this Juggernaut being so much bigger than this Blob, and it came with a whole Colossus figure. That's a pretty big figure too. Alright, and that will basically wrap up my review of the Marvel Legends Blob Deluxe release. Very nice figure, I like it a lot. I'm very happy to finally have a Blob in my collection. It's long overdue, and I definitely do like it. Aesthetically better than that Build-A-Figure release. I keep saying that because I don't have it in hand, and I hate saying that a figure is better when I don't even have the other figure in hand. And I'm just really digging this figure overall. For such a big, fat, thick boy, he's very articulated. I think they did the best they could. It truly is a Marvel Legend of Blob, and I do recommend it. Now, of course, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section, and while you're down there, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and as always guys, take care, take it easy, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye.